3 on clay mineralogy. In the previous lecture, we have seen the classification of soil based on particle size, and let's understand more about clay in this lecture. They are less than 2 micron in size and considered to be more problematic for construction. Thus, understanding clay is very important. That's the reason I have made this separate video on clay mineralogy. Clay minerals are complex aluminum silicates composed of basically two units, namely the silica tetrahedron and alumina octahedron. Friends, we have to know and not get confused between silica and tetrahedron and alumina octahedron. So let's get it more easier with some mnemonics as shown here. S and T, silica it is tetrahedron and alumina is octahedron. For example, you can remember this way AeIOU, and that's how it's alumina octahedron. And when you know the structure of silica tetrahedron and alumina octahedron, it will be more easier. Generally, silica tetrahedron forms silica sheets and alumina octahedron forms the alumina sheets or the gypsite sheets. Combination of tetrahedral silica units gives us the silica sheets, whereas the combination of octahedral aluminum hydroxyl units gives us an octahedral sheet. So, friends, see here that silica is combined with 4 oxygen, whereas aluminum atom is combined with 6 hydroxyl units. Sometimes magnesium replaces the aluminum atoms in the octahedral units, and octahedral sheet is called as the brucite sheet. If it's just the aluminum, then it's the gypsite sheet. In silica sheet, each silicon atom with 4 positive charges is linked with 4 oxygen atoms with total number of 8 negative charges. Hope you get that. That is, silica is 4 plus, whereas oxygen is 2 minus. Since there are 4, it is connected in this way, where the 3 oxygens at the bottom are connected to another tetrahedron and gets balanced, whereas the oxygen at the top is just combined with one silica and has an extra negative charge, which can be counterbalanced when silica is stacked over the octahedral sheets. These O2 gets replaced by the OH to balance their charge. So let's see how the stacking of this silicate sheets and the aluminum hydroxyl sheets forms various clay minerals such as kyanite, illite and montmorillonite. Just first let's understand the structure of each one, that is kyanite. Kyanite is made up of alumina sheet and silica sheet in the ratio of 1:1, and they are strongly bonded with hydrogen bonds. These two things you have to remember and get it compared with illite and montmorillonite and have a comparative study so that this may be asked in exams to arrange in ascending order or descending order. Next one is illite. In illite and montmorillonite clay minerals, we have 2:1 ratio where 2 silica sheets has the alumina sheet sandwiched in between them, and the only difference is that the potassium ions are the bonding ones between the sheets of the illite, whereas in montmorillonite we have the water bond or the weak van der Waals force and exchangeable ions, and these are easily infiltrated. The next one is to have a comparative study. Just see and compare them so that you will be able to easily recollect during exams. Montmorillonite, illite and kyanite. When it comes to cohesion, plasticity and swelling, montmorillonite highly swells comparative to illite and kyanite. Cation exchange capacity is greater for montmorillonite, and coming to specific surface area, Generally, specific surface area is nothing but it is the area per unit weight, and this is also highest for montmollinite. We also have to notice that the spacing between montmollinite can be 9.8 Armstrong to infinity since it is connected by weak bonds, whereas illite it is 10 Armstrongs and kyanite it is 7.8 Armstrongs. So proceeding with the next, let's see all the images together and see whether you can identify them. As I said, this has a separation of 7.2 Armstrong, this has a separation of 10 Armstrong, and this has a separation of 9.6 Armstrong to complete separation, meaning infinite. And also notice that hydrogen bond is strong and water bond and exchangeable cations bond is the weakest one. Did you know that the clay minerals are negatively charged, and it is due to isomorphous substitution, and when you break the clay minerals you have negative charge due to the previously discussed unbalanced oxygen atoms. So let's quickly understand what is isomorphous substitution. It is a process that substitutes one atom for another in the structure of clay mineral at the time of clay minerals formation. Example, Al3 plus for Si4 plus in tetrahedral units and Mg2 plus or Fe2 plus in place of Al3 plus in the octahedral units. Attraction of dipolar molecules in different or in diffuse double layer is what we are going to discuss next. Generally, a water is made up of dipolar units as seen here. Water molecules are polar. Hydrogen atoms are not as axisymmetric around an oxygen atom. Instead, they occur at a bonded angle of 105 degree. As a result, a water molecule has a positive charge at one side and negative charge at the other side. It is known as a dipole. Thus, we can see there is 105-degree angle between these both, and oxygen is negative and hydrogen forms a positive charges. Next, let's proceed with understanding how the cations and anions behave in clay minerals. Some partially hydrated cations in the pore water are also attracted to the surface of clay particles. Remember that clay particles are negatively charged and cations are positively charged, and hence they get attracted. These cations attract the dipolar water molecules as well. The water held to clay particle by force of attraction is known as the double layer water, and the innermost of the double layer, which are very strongly held by the clay, is known as the adsorbed water. This adsorbed water are more viscous than the free water. This diagram illustrates the same, where you can see the positive charge is due to the cation that has been attracted due to the negative charge of the layer, and once this is being attracted, it further attracts the dipolar water molecule. That is, since there is O minus in water, as we have discussed, it is dipolar, it gets attracted to the surface. Thus, the layer formed between the clay mineral and the water is the adsorbed water, and this attraction decreases when we go further away. And also, we can notice that in dry clay, the negative charge is balanced by exchangeable cations surrounding the particles being held by electrostatic attraction. When water is added to clay, these cations and a few anions float around the clay particles. This configuration is referred to as the diffuse double layer. Earlier we saw the double layer water, and now we are seeing a diffuse double layer. This is generally known as diffuse double layer theory, where the cations concentration decreases as we go away from the clay particle. So, hope you understood clay mineralogy, and let's now understand the soil fabrics. Soil particles are assumed to be rigid. During deposition, the mineral particles are arranged into structural frameworks that we call as soil fabrics. Each particle is in random contact with neighboring particles. The environment under which deposition occurs influences the structural framework that is formed. In particular, the electrochemical environment has the greatest influence on the kind of soil fabric that is formed during deposition of fine-grained soils. Two common types of soil fabrics are flocculated structure and the dispersed structure, formed during soil deposition of fine-grained soil. I repeat, it is the fine-grained soil. A flocculated structure formed in saltwater environment results when many particles tend to orient parallel to one another. A flocculated structure formed in a freshwater environment results when many particles tend to orient in perpendicular manner. A dispersed structure occurs when majority of the particles orient parallel to one another. Any loading during or after deposition permanently alters the soil fabric or structural arrangement in a way that is unique to the particular loading condition. Consequently, the history of loading and changes in the environment is imprinted in the soil fabric. The soil fabric is the brain. It retains the memory of birth of the soil and subsequent changes that occur. The spaces between the mineral particles are called the voids, as you see here, which may be filled with liquids, gases, and cementitious material. Voids occupy a large proportion of soil volume. Interconnected voids form the passageway through which water flows in and out of soils. If we change the volume of voids, we will cause the soil to either compress or expand. Loads applied by a building, for example, will cause the mineral particles to be forced closer together, reducing the volume of voids and changing the orientation of structural framework. Having seen for fine-grained soil, let's see how dense sand and loose sand are oriented. As you can see, loose sand is the packing one above other where there are more amount of voids compared to the dense sand. In dense sand, you can see that the particles are arranged one over the other in between their gaps and thus the voids are less. I hope this video was very useful regarding the clay mineralogy. Let us meet soon with some example sums in this topic. Thank you.